Apologies from Sean, who's not well. We've also got apologies from Sue O'Gorman, who's unwell as well. So Grace is the only member of the our democracy team here tonight. So if there are any questions that come up that Grace or one of the other staff members from the council can't answer, I'll just take a note of those, and then Grace and I will liaise with Sue after the meeting, and then Sue can feed back to us once she's well. Candy, does anybody want to do a karakia to open the meeting?
Apai, again.
Thanks, Candy.
Kia ora. Kia hora te marino, kia whakapapa pauna me te moana, hei huarahi mā tātou i te rangi nei, aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou ia tātou katoa, haumi e hui e, taiki e.
Kia ora. Kia ora. Apai, Candy. And we've got Bronwyn has joined on the phone, so if that can be noted as well. So our first agenda item, we've got an update on variation 3 to the proposed Waikato district plan. So yeah, over to you, Yvonne.
Sorry, can I just interrupt?
Yeah, sure, Grace.
Sorry. Caroline, could we just get movers and seconders for apologies and confirmation of agenda?
Yeah, okay. Yep. So did you say you're happy to move that, Candy? Yeah, and I'll second that for apologies. And the one I always forget, which is a confirmation of the status of the agenda. I'll move that. Do I have a seconder for that? Candy? Yep. Yeah, thanks. Great. Okay, so over to you, Yvonne.
Thank you. I've got a very short PowerPoint which I'll share with you, and if it doesn't work, I'll just talk to you. So you're the first community group to get an update on this. So you're first out of the box. The council have been given a direction by the government to undertake a change to the district plan to enable more houses to be built. We may well have seen things from other councils as they've kicked off a little earlier. This means that council needs to notify a variation to amend the decisions on the plan, and we've been working on it. We're calling it Enabling Housing Supply Variation 3. And it's very much incomplete at the moment. We're still working through the policy options and approach. So that may well be a last minute thing. We're required to notify by the 20th of August, and we are on track for that at the moment. We may notify the day before that is the 19th, which is a Friday, but we're required to notify by the 20th of August. Once we've notified the plan change, people will be able to make submissions, and I really encourage you to have your say and support the bits that you like as well as opposing the bits that you don't like, so that we get quite a good balance about the things that you want to see in the plan. The Resource Management Act legislation requires us to change the residential standards, density standards in the plan, and the rules that apply to the residential area in the district zone to allow for more housing. And those are things like 3 houses per site and 3 stories high, plus other standards that mean people can build close to the boundary and higher. And this is just a list of some of the changes in that legislation. The changes enabling legislation won't apply, intensification won't apply everywhere. The district plan will only apply to residential areas in Huntly, Ngaruawahia, Tuakau and Pokeno, and that's based on population data. So it applies to the largest towns. This is just a slide that shows you where it's at. So Huntly, Ngaruawahia and Turko are the 3 largest towns, and we're recommending that Pokeno be added too, because it's had a very high growth in the last period of time, and so we're thinking that that should be added to the changes as well, just the residential zones. So there were medium density residential zones that were put into the proposed district plan. You will recall that process has just been completed. We released decisions in January, and here we go again. Those put medium density residential zones in 6 towns, and we will need to change the standards that apply. Some of them stay the same, some of them will be different. In this process, new provisions will only apply to Huntly, Onewhero-Tuakau and Pokeno. So mostly they will be medium density zones with changes, and there are also likely to be some changes made to the residential zones, but only in those 4 towns. So we know that some locations are suitable for intensive development, and the law allows us to be less enabling of development if there are qualifying matters, and they're things like heritage and natural hazards, setbacks from roads. So this is just a list of what we're thinking. At the moment, nothing's set in stone until the council meeting just before we notify. So what we are thinking is that the variation will apply to those 3 zones, that because we must apply them in some of those areas, and we could rezone some areas of general residential to medium density where that's appropriate in those 4 towns. We're also considering modifying the density standards in some areas to accommodate other things, and they're things like heritage, natural hazards. We do have some discretion to identify others, but we're still working through really what that means. So that's my update. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I have one if I can.
Yeah, go for it, right, Vern.
Will you be sending out this so we can have a read of it prior to August, as it's quite an important issue from my perspective? I might have just lost contact. Hello?
Can you still
Keep going.
Okay, right.
So because the timeframes are so tight and we're still drafting, we may not have time to send it out to people before we notify, but we are looking at having a longer submission period so people have got a bit of time to understand it and draft their submissions.
Yeah, because that's a very, very important issue. If the timing is short, you've got no time for developers to get submissions in.
Yeah.
So will you be sending this slideshow out to us?
I can send you the slideshow, yes.
I would really appreciate it if we can do so. I can have some input prepared.
I can do that.
Anybody else got questions? I've just got one in terms of the medium density, which is fine. It works best if it's balanced with good public amenity in terms of recreational spaces, because that's one of the things you lose with medium density housing. So in terms of what's in the proposed plan change rules to ensure that it's balanced in terms of its development with the other amenities that are needed to create successful communities?
There's nothing that's easy to apply. So certainly community services and things like open space needs are front of mind, and the council can use some of its other processes like the long-term plan to make sure that's improved. But of course that means there's a slight lag potentially for ensuring those facilities are there. So we're working through some policy options to look at how the size of towns and how that might work, but the direction's quite stringent and it's quite difficult to get around some of those things. So we're doing our best, but it may not come together.
And certainly just a question in terms of the enthusiasm that the Turko community has had for a railway station in Turko, and I'm aware that Pamela's joined us too from the Regional Council. Would this give greater leverage in terms of sort of advocating for that station, given that, you know, with increased housing, you have increased population, and what you're wanting to do is not have increased number of cars on the road. So providing other modes of transport options, and a railway station in Turko would seem to be a very smart option.
Yes, it is. So this plan change can't drive it, but I would certainly expect those kind of policy changes to be happening. I do know that the Regional Council is looking at those kind of transport mode shifts to help with this. And Kiwi Rail do use a population-based data for making those kind of station location decisions, but the plan change itself can't really deal with that.
No, but parallel processes could.
Yes.
So it is about getting your joined up approach to this. So, you know, it's really useful that Pamela's here tonight, because this is something that is important that, you know, the regional council also considers its plans around public transport, you know, rail infrastructure in terms of growing communities, because, you know, Ngarawahia is also on the railway track as well, but, you know, we don't advocate for them, we advocate for Turko. So, you know, I think this is really important that we make sure there's parallel processes at play here. And certainly the Waikato District Council can also do some planning, I mean, for public open space. And I know we have one new area in Turko, but it's actually making sure that things run in parallel and actually, you know, the whole processes are supported in terms of achieving the holistic goal that you're trying to achieve, so that we don't have decisions made in silos.
Yes, unfortunately, there's not very much at the government end, so I would normally see it happening the other way around.
Yeah,
so we'd have a strategic layer, but
yeah, that's okay, because we can have a chat to our government parties as well, because actually they also can drive public transport funding as well. And if they want a modal shift out of cars to public transport options, it would seem the perfect timing to do that. So we may, as the chair, I may well pursue that conversation too, with support of my board members, I'm sure. So yes, I think it is about making the most of those opportunities. You want us to do that, then you give us that.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. No, very good. Thank you, Yvonne. I'm just wondering if we've got any other questions or anything from anybody. I know some of you got your cameras off, but just sing out if you've got any questions or comments. Vern.
Yes, I do at the moment, and maybe Pamela can answer this one. Good evening, Pamela. I understand that the rail transport system is going to be closed sometime from Pukekohe through to Papakura, and while all of the motorway bridge extensions and rebuilding is taking place. Is there a time frame that you're able to advise us that that's going to be closed for? And what is that doing to the Tihuia service at this point? Maybe it's the wrong time right at the moment, but later on, I'd like to hear back on that. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm not the right person to answer that. The regional council might have some.
I went to Pamela with it. I'm not sure whether she could hear me.
Certainly, Vern, I did hear the question. I probably don't have that information to hand right now, but can certainly follow that up.
I can perhaps talk with you later.
Yeah.
Pamela, too, it's very fortuitous that you've joined us tonight. You're probably going to regret you did. Just in terms of like my questions about the public transport, in terms of timing, you know, this is a good opportunity for us to advocate to the regional council. Is there anything coming up where it would be useful, or should we just generally write a letter or advocate through you, like was just write to the regional council and promote this in a parallel way as well? We give feedback to the plan change. We can also provide a letter to the regional council pushing the same issue.
Sure. I was actually coming here tonight to specifically talk about a submission opportunity on a public transport regional plan. So when I tuned in, I was like, oh my gosh, it's like they already started talking about it. Fantastic. So I'm happy to go into that when I just want to make sure if Yvonne had other things that she wanted to close off before you moved on to my.
No, that's great. Stephanie's got her hand up, so I'll just check with Stephanie. Stephanie, have you got it? What would you like to add?
I was just going to assist Vern in his query regarding Tihuia. It's running once a day in the morning through and coming back to Hamilton, and then again in the evening. And it's doing that at present.
Yeah, thanks for that, Stephanie. I do understand that is happening at the moment, but I'm more concerned about the closure of the transport line due to the rail network changes that they're doing with the motorway extensions, and what does that do to Tihuia, because it's all going to be done by buses from Pukekohe.
It may only be temporary though, Vern. So sometimes temporary pain, long-term gain.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah.
Understand. Yeah, but it's just something that I'm passionate about, like you are, in terms of the transport.
Absolutely. And the problem is once people get out of the habit of using it, then it's hard to get them back into the habit of using it. That's the biggest issue. And the problem is the rail buses, they do go around, take a long time to get anywhere. Yvonne, is there any other final points? So what's the time frame for this? When this is likely to come out for consultation?
So the notification date will be 19th or 20th of August. We may be able to give you another update for then, but really we're working quite hard to pull it together. So it will be in the formal process potentially after August that you'll see the final draft.
That's not a good timing for us because that sort of falls into the election period where we've got our final meeting at the beginning of September, and then there won't be another meeting till the new board is formed and sworn in and start their first meeting. So that's quite poor timing. So what we might have to do is still submit, like as on behalf of the board, but acknowledging that we were the board leaving, because I think this is too important for us to ignore simply because we're
I will certainly raise that long submission date to happen. I'm fairly confident, I'd have to check my notes, that it will be after the council reconvenes, so before those
it's more important when the consultation period commences, so that at least at the existing board we can have a discussion and get a submission in before before the elections. It's not so much that about when it winds up, it's about when it starts.
It's in the legislation, that start date, so it's not like we will get the work finished before then, but it will have to be by then.
No, very good. That's great, actually. Thank you so much for coming tonight and presenting to us, because it's really important consultation piece, and it's good to have that presentation to help us recognise the importance of it and understand the impact, particularly on Turko for us. So thank you very much.
Thank you. If you don't mind, I'll stay and listen to the regional council. I'm quite interested in what.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's great. So so Pamela's here as part of the public forum, because welcome, Pamela. Kia ora.
Thank you for that. As I said, how fortuitous that I joined tonight, because obviously public transport is something you've already started talking about in your meeting tonight. And one of the things I wanted to raise with the committee, because I know that you are all very interested in public transport, is that we are currently taking submissions on our draft regional public transport plan. So this is the draft plan for 2022 to 2032. The submissions are open until 5 p.m. on the 29th of July. So you've got another 10 days to pull something together. And there was planned 2 webinars to allow people to ask some further questions and engage. Unfortunately, the one on regional communities is happening right now. So you won't be able to be a part of that. However, if you're interested in watching that, and I would encourage you to do so, I'm sure that if you reached out to the regional council, they should be able to provide you a link to a recording. I'll try and track that down myself anyways, but if you wanted to reach out, that might be a way to see it. If you're interested, there is a second webinar tomorrow night, but it is specifically targeted at Hamilton. Obviously, there is considerable public transport and public transport expenditure that happens in Hamilton City, so they've got their own webinar that's going on. But I encourage you to, if you just go onto the WRC website, and you know how you have the highlights that are going through on the front page there, one of those will be about the regional public transport plan. So I encourage you to click on that. There is the full document, which is about 60 or so pages. There is also a summary document just to give you a heads up on some of the particular areas they're putting some emphasis on. It is a very bold plan, I will tell you that. It is, I think, one particular area where it's taking quite a stance is around response to climate change. So they are proposing to make our public transport fleet not just carbon neutral, but carbon negative. And the way they're intending to do that is through electric buses and also the purchase of offsets, so carbon offsets. And the intention at this stage is that those carbon offsets may be purchased domestically, but they may also be purchased internationally. So, so I just raised this with you because if you have some particular views on whether or not you're happy or otherwise of a carbon negative approach that includes particularly, I guess I would encourage you to focus on the international offsets, whether or not that's something that that you think that we should be doing as part of this project or this plan. I encourage you to provide your feedback. The other thing I would encourage you to ask about is the cost, because when this was first presented, I did ask about it's fantastic for us to be really ambitious in what we're doing, but we also need to be cognizant that our communities are facing some trying times economically, and while we want to do great things with our plans and our policies, those have to be resourced somehow, and the cost associated with the plan that's proposed is quite significant. It goes from a per capita spend, and this is averaged across the region. So just so we're clear, it's averaged across the region. So some areas will pay more than this, some will pay less. And also this cost that I'm going to quote is the collective cost. So that's the cost of fares alongside the regional rates, alongside the district council rates, alongside contribution from Waka Kotahi. But if you consider particularly the rates and the Waka Kotahi, those are ratepayers, taxpayers that are putting money into this. All right. So if all of this was to be rolled out tomorrow, the per capita cost would go from $71 per capita to $225 per capita. So it's a significant cost. So I guess I just am encouraging you to look at what's proposed and reflect on yourself and your community, and provide provide a submission that can communicate whether or not this is along the lines of what you think is affordable in our communities, or otherwise. And I encourage you to just put your thoughts around the ambition of the plan. So I won't tell you what submissions to put in. That's over to you guys. But those submissions are open until the 29th of July. So 5 p.m. 29th of July. So I'm going to stop there. I have something else to cover, but I'll just pause there. And if there's any.
Yeah, there's questions, Pamela. So Carolyn's got her hand up, and I see Burton waving his hand as well. So we'll go Carolyn first.
Thank you, Caroline, and apologies for being late, everybody. But thanks for that, Pamela. Really interesting. I mean, my thoughts are aspirational, without a doubt, but largely a number of rural residents don't actually benefit from public transport. So in terms of funding for this, have Regional Council considered more of a targeted rate?
I'd have to go back and review the specific aspects of the proposal in terms of how they're going to distribute that. I think it's going to be a little bit of a horses for courses thing. So targeted rates in Hamilton City is how it's funded now. the public transport in Hamilton City. In the Waikato district collects those funds and then provides it towards the running of the service. I do know that there are aspects of distance from a bus stop or different distance from access to the public transport, and that is reflected in the rating. When I'm talking about the average, I'm just talking about the average, just to give you a sense of the the collective financial impact of these policies.
Thank you.
That's great. Vern?
Yeah, that's very interesting. Thank you, Pamela. My views on electric vehicles are really quite different. I think that we should all be pursuing and looking at hydrogen power a lot more. I'd like to know later, perhaps, if the councils have considered that area. What I did want to mention was an observation I made over the weekend about a new bus that I saw operating, which is probably about a 12-seater. And I jumped for joy because I thought that made great sense, rather than these big beasts that are running around with not one person in them. So I'm not sure whether this is a new vehicle that is being put on the run, whether this is council and regional council looking at more realistic types of vehicles running. Can you add to that? I think it might have been a Mercedes 10 or 12-seater, but only about a 6 or 7 meter vehicle.
I do know that they have been looking at different vehicles to service, particularly the more rural areas, and reflecting the nature of the ridership and the fare numbers or the fare occupants on there. So I do know that that's been implemented. I can't speak to the particular vehicle you saw. I have to say, unfortunately, I don't sit on any of the regional transport committees or the public transport committees. So I tend to get what information comes through to full council. If you are looking for some specifics, I'd encourage you to go in and look at the the 60-page or so document that sits alongside this proposal, just to see if there's some particular areas that you might want to comment on, like for instance, when you raise hydrogen. I think that it would be a very valid thing to raise within the submission.
Thank you, Pamela.
Vern, we got an email today. Vern, we got an email today on the new buses. I think Jackie sent it out. So Candy's nodding as well. So if you look in your inbox, you'll probably find it. I think it was pretty sure it was Jackie that sent it about the new 12-seater bus. Yeah,
it's fantastic. I have to say, we put that in way back in the beginning, but instead of that, we got the monolithic beast. And I think it's great thinking to see it running much more cost effective, serviceable on our roads. Great.
Great. Now I've got Jonathan's got his hand up. Jonathan.
Hi, Pamela. You mentioned buying carbon credits, which is always an interesting conversation. That one is. Is that a good use of ratepayers' dollars? Because what do they get for that?
The reason that I'm attending this meeting is so I can raise the issue with you guys, because the draft plan is as it is, and like I say, it includes purchasing offsets, both domestic and international. And so if you have feelings on whether or not that is how you would like to see ratepayer money used, then I would encourage you to engage in the submission process.
Yeah, I guess it's just trying to understand the purpose for it and what the ratepayer gains out of it, I guess. Is there been a process to the decision or the suggestion, I suggest, from that perspective, or is it just, it would sound really good? Because I know there's a courier company up here in Auckland that runs vans and trucks and everything, and they're carbon neutral, and it's purely because they buy carbon credits. So there's only people, the only people that benefit of this is the carbon credit trading market at the end of the day. So we're not seeing any actual local benefit to that concept at all. And to be honest, to even think of that is almost unbelievable that would be put out there, saying we're going to buy carbon credits to be carbon negative. you know, in that context. And that's my personal thought. And yes, certainly, I'm already finding the website, don't worry.
Yeah, Jonathan, I had similar questions for Pamela too, around for greater clarity on that, because just thinking of parallel, like I have solar panels at home, and if I generate more solar energy than I need, then that gets sold back to the grid, which is fine because it's actually, you know, me creating it and giving it back to the grid. But are you suggesting that the regional council would buy credits from overseas simply to prove that it was that doesn't make sense? Like, it's fine if your fleet is electric and it's however else it's generating electricity or anything that is creating more energy than it needs, like with solar panels or something, but to offset a purchase of carbon credits just to say that you're carbon negative doesn't really, is that what's purposes? Doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, that's the one.
I had very similar questions.
And I have to declare an interest here because I'm an owner of a hybrid car. And I have yeah, no, it's the best thing ever. It's not a plug-in either.
Yeah,
and
hybrid,
so,
yeah, I'll go with that.
Yeah, and I've got solar. So, I mean, I can understand like when you generate more energy than you need and you sell it back to the grid, but actually to go overseas and buy someone who's presumed is planting trees somewhere, it doesn't quite make sense.
Well, and I think that when you consider that there are offshore companies who are investing in carbon offsets within New Zealand to offset, you know, offshore carbon, we could end up possibly in a situation where there's no carbon sinks to invest in anymore, you know, eventually in New Zealand. And so therefore then we're restricted to going offshore if offsetting is part of our policy. So
it doesn't it's a very lazy way of reducing your carbon emissions by just offsetting, you know, rather than actually truly offsetting your carbon emissions, which you would do anyway if you ran an electric fleet. You don't, you know, just buying someone else's tree planting is a lazy way of doing it. So you know, it's really good that you've come and talked to us, because actually you probably could, you know, they could probably do it very effectively. Electric buses are good because they're, particularly around town centres, they're far less dirty and smelly than diesel ones for pedestrians in particular, when people, and for retailers who happen to be by a bus stop. So there's lots of merits from a health perspective. Yeah, from a health perspective in terms of having an electric fleet and just an amenity factor. But yeah, it's really useful that you've raised that point about the offsetting the carbon credits, because yeah, so
yeah,
I'm sure
and honestly, that's why I'm going around to community board meetings right now. It's because well, it's two things. It's that you have to read the fine print to get that sort of information. And also I have seen I don't know if Carolyn or Stephanie has seen this in their time in local government, but I often see us go out for submission on things and we go, what do you think of this idea? Isn't this a great idea? But we don't necessarily tell people what it costs. And I think that whenever we're presented with something really innovative, we can get very excited and say, oh yeah, I'd love to see that. And then later on we go, oh, here's how much you have to pay now. And I think that does a little bit of a disservice to our ratepayers, because we're not being straight up about that, you know, if you want the dog and the pony show, that it costs you this much. So yeah, so I just wanted to raise that. And also I would encourage you, I know that the train station is a important aspect for this community. This is an opportunity for you to say those things. So even beyond what's proposed, use this as an opportunity to get your thoughts heard yet again, because I know you've done it before, yet again on what your community wants to see in terms of public transport and in terms of the train.
Great, thank you, Pamela. Jonathan, you've got your hand up, so I'm not sure if that's
and I guess it's a continuation. Now, the only reason I know a little bit about this is that I was involved with something years ago. We tried to get an approval under the whole carbon credit thing, and we were a olive estate growing thousands of trees, 30,000 trees, and we weren't approved because the trees were for the purpose of creating a product. Okay. So if the regional council is wanting to do a negative carbon situation, why don't you plant more trees just in reserves and then apply for the carbon credits under that mechanism? I mean, because that's giving you the ability to actually get the carbon credits in the intent that they're actually designed for, because anything that generates a business or is actually contributes to a product is actually not counted. So therefore, by doing it yourself as a regional council, shouldn't you be able to get negative or carbon credits for the purpose of actually all the trees that are in the region?
And possibly, I think what's interesting is that if you overlay what you've just proposed with some of the other conversations that are happening, particularly at a central government level, around whether or not plantings on farms get included as
I know,
as offset, right?
Yeah, that's exactly the one.
So I think that there's some very big conversations that we're having as communities.
No, that's great. Yeah. We've got Stephanie's got her hand up and Carolyn. So Stephanie, off you go.
Thank you. Regarding the carbon credits, in 2012, New Zealand had a carbon surplus, and then they changed how it was acceptable to be used as carbon credits, and now it's only forestry, and it has to be proper forestry planted after 1990, nothing else. I too have walnuts, and they don't count either. So it's really interesting that it just depends on what at that point in time government.
I think we've lost you, Stephanie, but I think we
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Oh no, that you're good now. Yeah,
I'm back.
Yeah, you're back now.
Right, I'll try again then.
No, we've lost you. I think we got the point is that, yeah, around the nature of what the government is considered suitable for carbon credits, because actually all trees
regarding the carbon credits.
Yeah.
In 2012, New Zealand had a surplus because at that point they were counting everything. No. Yeah.
No, we've got you. Yep. Yep. No, we've got that. So we'll go to Carolyn now. Carolyn.
Look, I was just going to make a comment in respect of Jonathan's statement. I think, regional council don't.
At any point in time.
Are we good? Can you hear me?
Yep.
You hear me,
Carolyn?
Okay. No, just in response to Jonathan's comment. Regional council don't own land. You'd be hard pushed to actually gain regional council to be gaining carbon credits from farmers.
I suppose we do own the flood schemes, but then again, you wouldn't be planting a lot of trees on those, I don't think, and if they were in any way to compromise the function of the flood schemes themselves. So. Yeah, I think it's I think it's interesting challenges, and I guess again that's why I raise it, because there are some complexities to this type of a policy approach, and the ability to do that offsetting at a domestic level. So so just raising that, and then I have one more thing I want to cover, Caroline. And that is around the freshwater policy review that we're currently doing. So some of you may have been aware of, there was a public meeting on, I think it was the 21st of June in Tuurico. And I don't know if anyone, well, I was there and I don't recognize that anybody was there from the meeting tonight. So So that was around, just so you're aware, we have been doing a number of workshops across the region. And this is in response to the National Policy Statement for Freshwater and the National Environment Standard for Freshwater that came out in 2020. Regional councils have to give effect to those national policy statements within our regional plans and our regional policy statements. And so we've been doing a series of face-to-face workshops to have initial conversations with our communities around freshwater and how they would like to see the national policy statement reflected from a regional or community-specific point of view. Now, that Tuakau workshop, I think in the end, we had maybe 10 to 15 people there throughout the day, but there is a online workshop. And so that was what I wanted to raise with you all tonight, is the opportunity to participate in an online workshop on the 25th of July. So I think that's next Monday, 25th? I'm not sure. Next 25th, on the 25th of July, from 7 to 8 p.m. There'll be a public webinar on it. And so for those of you who weren't able to participate in that face-to-face session, here's an opportunity to have a bit of a say of what does Te Mana o Te Wai mean to you personally? What are some of the aspects of fresh water in your area that are important to you? And to provide that feedback into our policy review. So if you want to register for that, I'd go onto the WRC website and just search up freshwater policy review. And if you sort of, scroll through that page, I think down near the bottom is where there's signups for that particular webinar. So I'm just encouraging you to engage with that. Our workshops across the region have been a bit hit and miss in terms of attendees. Some places you get lots of people attending, others not so much. So I just want to make sure that you have the opportunity to participate if that's an area that's of interest and importance to you. So those are the only two things I wanted to raise with you tonight, Caroline.
That's great. Thanks, Pamela. And I think we've got a couple of questions here. Carolyn's got a hand up and so has Verton. So Carolyn first.
No, mine is just a comment. Actually, I am somewhat more so taking my councillor hat off and putting my farmer hat on, Pamela, really concerned about the communication strategy from regional council. In respect of that, farmers have had no knowledge of any of these workshops. So no wonder you've not had good participation, because farmers haven't heard about it.
Well, and the thing to consider is that in my constituency, which is essentially the Waikato District Council area, there were only 2 workshops held. So there was one in Whangaroa in Raglan on, I think it was around the 20th of May, and then there was the second one in Tuakau. So how was that
communicated? How was that communicated?
Pretty much through Facebook.
Yeah,
it's either
not
Facebook
reaching people,
or
sorry, it's not reaching people.
Yeah,
probably need to go back about your communication strategy.
I totally agree. And certainly have raised that even from before we started. I said, how are you getting this out to the communities? Because Facebook is not is not the way to connect with everybody. No. And we need to be more effective in how we talk to people, because I agree with you. Both of because I attended the Raglan Whangaroa one as well as the Tuakau one, and there were no farmers at the Whangaroa one.
Who went?
There were a couple. Huh?
I'm wondering who went, because even I'm a Facebook guru and I didn't even see it.
Yeah. It's really, and I think that some of that does come down to the Facebook algorithm, that, whatever comes across your page is dictated by an entity that is not connected with regional council. But if that is not connecting us, then we need to find other means, whether it's, and I guess I'd love to hear your feedback as to what is the best way to communicate with the community. Is it through there's not a lot of print media that happens in our region anymore, or I should say our district. anymore. There's not a lot of print media. And, you know, so is it radio? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Do I need to be doing TikToks? Oh, please, no.
Pamela, I'll just take Vern's question or Vern did have a question or a comment, and then perhaps we can have a little, then we'll talk about the communication with the regional council.
Thank you, Pamela. I guess I've got two things. I'm assuming that when you refer to water, that you're referring to the Three Waters program. No, okay,
no,
that's fine. Secondly, we do have a relatively good tool within the Waikato District Council in terms of their newsletter that goes out by email, and it would be really interesting to know from our councillors or from Democracy, are there any numbers that we know of how many people actually do get that email message about from council in regards to the newsletter, so to speak?
I can look into that.
I'm going to guess, Vern, that, I mean, obviously we're two different entities and we are funded separately. And so I don't know how keen the district council would be of us like leaping onto their their email stream. But I mean, I'd love it. But I think that there might be some challenges in that.
That would be common sense.
It would. It would. I think that, I mean, one of the ways that I stay connected, even as a councillor, you still have to take action in order to stay connected with the regional council. I sign up on the website. You can put your email in and say, let me know what's happening. And that is how a lot of people, I think, find out about stuff. So
I think it goes to my point about regional council's communication policy with the constituents.
Yeah, totally agree.
Stephanie had her hand up. I'm not sure if it's dropped now, but Stephanie, did you have a comment?
If I can be heard, yes, I did. It would have been so easy even for regional council to contact the community board. That would have been a great place to start.
Yeah. And I probably should have done that. I probably should have. That's why I'm doing it now, Stephanie, is to say, hey, we have another shot. We have another shot and nobody even needs to leave home. So.
To be fair, I mean, in the past, I've had, like where I live, we've had pretty regular communication from the regional council, and particularly in terms of pest control, with little newsletters. I have to say I haven't seen one recently, so I'm not sure whether that's changed. But certainly it's good to hear about the email connection, that if you're interested, you can, put a comment in there and then you will get regular updates. So that's good, because the certainly the little updates that I've had in the past have been very informative, and certainly around the pest control, I think the regional council does a great job. So so I'm not sure whether there's been a change in those communications, because I'm pretty sure we used to get them pretty regularly. Like, I'm not sure whether it was 2 monthly or 3 monthly, but
Now to speak to that, Caroline, it's only when you're in their catchment. If you're in the catchment where you're actually they're going to be working on possum control, they will contact you.
Oh, okay. So that might be, but it's good to hear tonight, Pamela, that if people are interested in what the regional council is doing, to put to go into their website and put a link that you are interested, and maybe we can add that to our Facebook page, the local Facebook page, and that would then allow other people to know about that as well. And maybe even if the council, the district council put that in their newsletter, like if you're interested in regional council issues, go into the regional council website and express an interest, that would assist, without, I'm sure they could do that, assist the councils do that, at least to promote how you want effective communication. Is there any final questions or comments? Because this has been really informative. So thank you, Pamela, for coming. It's been really, really interesting, and really appreciate you coming, because these are really important, consultation processes that are happening, and we wouldn't have particularly known about them unless you'd made the effort to come tonight. So really appreciate that you've taken the time out to join us tonight.
No, it's my pleasure. And so just a reminder, the freshwater online workshop is on the 25th of July. And in terms of the public transport, that closes on the 29th of July. So so those are the two I'm asking you to have a look at and have your say. Great. Thank you.
That's lovely. Thank you. So you're very welcome to stay for our other discussions, or you're fine to leave as well, because we really appreciate that you've given an hour of your time anyway. Very useful time as well, I have to add. So thank you.
Nice. I'll sign off from here and let you get back to your other business, but thank you very much for the opportunity. Really appreciate it. And reach out to me anytime, any of you, if you have any further questions. All right. Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Ka kite, Pamela. Okay, everybody, we have our next item. Now, first of all, I just need to move that we need to confirm the minutes from the previous meeting. So I'm happy to move those. Well, first of all, do we have any changes to the minutes? Doesn't look like it. So I'm happy to move those, and Vern signaled that he'll second those. So thank you for that. So our next item is the works and actions and issues update. So we've got the report there on page 50, starting from page 15 and going on to page 16. So we'll go through those one at a time. I think that's probably the quickest way, just see if there's any questions. Probably makes it easier for Grace as well. So we've got the lighting at Port Waikato. So we've got, so the only action is for that to remain on the schedule, and we've got no update for this meeting. Any comments or questions? I'll try and keep an eye on hands up or anything, otherwise we'll move through fairly swiftly. Number 2 was the Onewhero area school road safety. So they visited the school and met with the principal, working through the options to reduce vehicle use and improve safety. Carolyn?
Sorry, Caroline, I'm going regressing. Just in respect of lighting at the port, I just wanted to acknowledge that it was also raised as a blueprint action.
Right, yeah. Anything on the school, Onewhero school safety? No, everybody's happy with that progress. That's good. Number 3 was the George Street, Buckland Road corner. That's remaining on the schedule, and there's no update for this meeting. Number 4 is the speed bin on Jellicoe Avenue. That's awaiting a service request. Vern, any update on that one?
No, excepting the village had their AGM on Friday, and I've yet to get a report. That's what we've been waiting for. Okay,
that's great. Number 5 is the Turko Youth Centre building project. So awaiting a date to when the open spaces team will start engagement with Turko for the redevelopment of the courts in front of the youth centre. And this could have an influence on how to proceed. So we're probably just waiting on that. Is there any other comment? Bronwyn, are you all right on that? Yeah, Bronwyn's happy. No, nothing else. Number 6 is the rubbish in the Turko CBD. No further updates until August 2022, awaiting results of the audit. Number 7 is the Port Waikato blueprint. Drop-in session in June was successful. Going to reassess the priorities. And hope to adopt the local area blueprint in August. So that's great progress. Carolyn, any update on that? Because I think you've been involved in that. No, thumbs up. That's good.
Yeah. No, look, it's actually really pleasing to see the positive response from the community on that. And whilst they recognise that erosion obviously is a big ticket item, it's nice to see the community come up with some other aspirations over and above that as well. So yeah, it's been well received. It's an exciting project, and I'm so pleased that one community in my ward has actually got a blueprint. Now in council, they can actually get sick of me. They'll be pleased for me to stop bagging on about not having any blueprints. So yeah, no, it's great. It's fantastic.
No, that's great. Awesome. So, and well done. So number 8 is the update to the Turko domain toilets. So there's no update till September. So we can move on that one unless anybody's got any issues to raise. Number 9 is the Liverpool Street car park area. So there's no further update as this is not a current project. Number 10 is the review of the pedestrian crossing on the Turko Main Street. That's to remain on the schedule. And then any news on the report from the local resident?
Being Julie from the Ray White office in Tuakau, no, other than the fact that it's also the same residents doing the Jellicoe Avenue. They are the biggest user of that crossing as being the aged group. And so I'm hoping a report will come from their AGM on Friday. I checked in yesterday, but I've got no update as yet.
No, that's great. Thank you. Then number 11 is the renovations to the light body club rooms. Now the board is to write a letter.
Correct.
Yeah, no, that's for me. I would get on with that. That's in progress, and I just need to sort out with Sue O'Gorman who I actually need to write to. So.
Is it me or is she cutting out? Caroline.
The door can't be changed on this particular model of the fridge.
If I may, through the chair,
you can.
then the fridge needs to be relocated somewhere else. And I think it was a very poor decision of councils to make without actually checking as to which way it should have opened in the first place. So I think the answer is a very poor answer. Anyone got any comment on that?
I agree. It's in the wrong place.
Sorry, Bronwyn's talking at the moment. So Bronwyn, off you go.
I just contacted me and I'm supposed to be the contact person for the town hall with regards to the fridge, the new chairs that we received and or doing anything with the kitchen. Nobody's contacted me at all.
Right, so Bronwyn's saying nobody's contacted her, even though she's supposed to be the contact for the hall. Grace, we might need to make a note of that one because we'll follow that up with Sue because they do need a contact from. And I mean, it might be as simple as changing the location of the fridge within the kitchen if the door can't be changed in a different direction. So, but they do need to consult with Bronwyn. So, no, that's good. Thank you, Bronwyn, on that one. So we make a note on that one. So we're now moving on to the community projects team update. So the first one is the Sunset Beach toilet and car park. So that's been progressed. Yep, Carolyn.
Yeah, just probably a little bit of an update. After the last several weeks weather events and all the rain, we have actually lost some more of the car park at Port. So when we're looking at doing the relocation of the toilet, they're giving probably a bit more, well, they are giving more priority about expanding the parking because obviously we're going to have overflow from the beach parking into that toilet space. So sort of one goes off with the other really. The erosion group that is meeting, the community resilience group that's meeting every month in respect of the erosion matters are also working on the toilet relocation and having input into that. So that's good.
That's great, thank you. Next one is the Maraetai Bay car park and playground update.
Yep, so there's two options for the playground update, and that's gone out for basically community feedback. There's been a pamphlet drop to the community. There's posters up in strategic locations around the port. It's on the District Council Facebook page, and we're wanting basically people to vote. Do they like option 1 or do they like option 2? And that closes, off the top of my head, that must close in a few weeks anyway. It's the feedback is requested from the community within a couple of weeks.
Excellent, thank you. That's great. There's great work happening out there, so that's really good. So Carolyn, pass on our thanks to the team that's making all those things happen because that's great. Next one is the Tourico Skatepark. So the first concrete feature's been completed and the first concrete bowl feature has started. So that's great. Does anybody have an update on that piece of work? Or is it just as Sean's not here tonight, but that sounds like there's good progress happening, particularly in the bad weather. Bern, you've got your hand up.
I'm just concerned over the overall issues that the contractor had to deal with in regards to these changes that have been made and the cost to the community for that, and what could have been a disaster for the contractor at no fault of his own whatsoever. So it would be really interesting to hear back as the community board as to the hows, wheres and whys the mistakes were made in the first instance by the geotechnical structural engineer who was the first party involved. Whether I've got the right terminology, but there certainly has been issues in there, and how and why they were allowed to happen is simply beyond me.
All right, so I'll get Grace to note that, because Grace, we will follow that up with Sue. Candy?
Yeah, sorry, I missed the both there. But there on the Maraetai Bay car park and playground upgate, where's this consultation part for it, Carolyn?
So it's not formal
options?
consultation. So you're talking about the car park or
the two options for the playground?
The playground has gone out to, it's on Facebook, on the Port Waikato Facebook page.
Okay.
You can go onto the link. So I shared that that post from council on the Port Waikato Facebook page, and you can follow a link to do the vote.
Great, thank you.
And then we've gone out to those community members with a pamphlet drop, house pamphlet drop.
Thank you.
Okay, so page 20, we've got the Turko Aquatic Center. So yep, there we go. There's as there. Do we have any questions on that one?
I'm just, Caroline, I'm just wondering, because they are having a corridor review with Bulgaria as well from an operational perspective. So is that talking about our front entrance way? Because I know we spoke about that too in regards to having a better system for them to come in and out.
Yes, we haven't got the 3D.
I think if they're consulting with Belgravia, they should also be consulting with the board, this board.
Yes, I think so.
So Grace, if we can note that, we'll follow up with Sue around the consultation with the board, because Sean and I were supposed to be the contacts for that, and I've certainly not seen anything yet. So we'll just make a note of all these things, Grace, and then I can follow up with Sue, because we might just need to have a little either something out by email to us or a quick Zoom catch up around this, because it is important that as a board we also see this work. Carolyn, are you, or Stephanie, are you aware from a councillor perspective? Have you seen anything yet either?
I'm sorry, Caroline, I actually lost out what was so in respect of what?
The Turko, the poll.
No, I'm sorry, I don't. That's probably more Stephanie's patch.
Yeah. Stephanie, have you caught up with anything on this? Have you seen any designs or anything?
No, I haven't seen anything either.
Okay, I'll follow up with them because to find out, because we should have been kept in the loop. Vern?
Yeah, the 3D perspectives are what we really would like to see, I think, as a community board, which is on the first line of print.
I'll follow up with them because I've got Mel's, the team's email addresses and everything, because we had lots of email communication at one point around setting up a date. So no, that's good. Next one is the car parks, the Turko contract. So we've got the light body reserve car park. So that the contract's going to market for tendering over winter. Any comments on that? No, we're all good on that one. The St Stephen's car park, that's design's progressing. The West Street car park. So expecting a report back on that one. The Tikahonga car park. There's 2 of them, upgrade to the 2 car parks. You all okay with that one, Candy? Yep.
Yeah, just with the Tikahonga, well, I suppose we're just moving on to the next one. Sorry, it really is around the playground, around the consultation for that. Is that out as well?
So that had been out, that's been out. So council and myself had actually consulted with the hall committee, and the hall committee then went out to the community, local marae, the school and other community members, and they came back to us with that option. So it wasn't through a leaflet drop per se, it was actually through dialogue with people in the community.
Did you get that consultation, Candy, your local marae? Whoops.
That's why I asked. Was it on the website too, Carolyn?
No, that wasn't on the council website, that one. That went out via the rugby club, and it went out through the hall secretary, Denise.
I know Denise, yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so we do some consultations differently than others, yeah?
What's that, sorry? Yeah. If we are assured, I guess my response to that would be, if we are assured that the feedback we receive would be robust by going to strategic people in the community, and then and we knew that the options that would come back, or the preferences for the options that would come back, had been consulted on by them, then we go with it, we run with it.
Yeah, it just happens quite fast too, eh?
Yeah, I think, Candy, it's worth you and I following up this one with Sue in terms of appropriate consultation. And Tikahonga is a fairly small community, and your marae is there, that it would have seemed an obvious place to consult with.
Yeah,
and I guess when I say it's not consultation per se, it is requesting feedback from the community. And like, as I say, if we've identified strategic people in the community that have assured us they're going out and speaking to the people that have a voice, then we take that as I guess as a given. We don't assume otherwise.
No, it's no reflection on the councillors. It's more around who are the it's always with these things. Who are the appropriate people in any community that should be consulted? So,
and I only bring it up because it says consultation on in our paperwork there. Consultation is underway with 2 playground design. That's why I only bring it up. But I was saying I wasn't consulted as well. But I'm glad to hear the hall committee was involved and the Tikahonga Rugby Club. But yeah, I understand now. I'm starting to understand. We only go so far. Yeah.
If we, as I say, we speak in the first instance, as a councillor, the staff will contact the council, will have contact me as the councillor, and said, who are the interested groups on that patch? And instantly for Tikahonga, I'd said, well, obviously your hall committee, because obviously in that on that land there, the hall committee and the rugby club. And then I had spoken to both of those parties, and they'd assured me that they were going further and wider. And yet, and likewise for Port Waikato, we'd gone to the residents and ratepayers in the first instance as well. And they'd given us a directive at that point that a preference would be for a mail drop.
Yeah.
So we take direction from the people we speak to in the first instance.
Yeah. I think we just need to be, I'm going to say this, I think we just need to be careful that we don't ignore local Maori, because often hall committees and are more probably reflect the Iwi community than they do the Maori community. So we should make sure, so we should make sure that the appropriate voices for the community that are not sitting around that table are also consulted. Yeah.
Okay.
Stephanie?
I was just going to say there's actually 2 marae in Tikahonga, and I don't believe either were consulted. And I think it was probably a very shallow consultation because I wasn't consulted either.
You live there.
To go with Caro to originally meet the hall secretary, so you can only do so much. There's only so much that you can do. And they do say that they will do all these wonderful things for you. So both should have been involved.
Yeah, and so hopefully this sort of thing will be addressed going forward, because with the improved Maori representation around the council, hopefully, there will be more easier engagement with ensuring local Maori communities are consulted as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. The Buckland Road Development Park. Anybody got any questions or comments on that one?
I did.
Yep. Carry on, Candy.
I wanted to know if there was going to be consultation with us, with the community, and what that would look like, because it will be a new, there's supposed to be a new playground area up there. Is that right?
Correct.
So that would involve consultation, right?
We're going to see a concept plan in November for consideration.
Yeah,
but
and sorry, Ben.
That's right. The other question to go with that, Candy and team, would be that they are talking about undertaking concept designs for 4 reserves, Buckland Road being one. I think we should know what the other three reserves are.
And Grace and I can talk about this with Sue, because given the learnings from Tikahonga, is making sure that the community with a capital C is consulted, so that it is making sure that the voices of all in that community are heard.
And I only take note from there were some questions raised when there was an upgrade at the dog park, and in there on our Facebook page there were comments made perhaps we could have some friendlier special needs type of equipment that could be put somewhere specifically. That may be a part there that we could look at having that specifically for. Just some thoughts. Thank you.
Even going to the local schools and even the preschool and consulting with the children around what they would like as well, or giving them some options to choose from, for those who are going to use it. And certainly, as you say, Candy, making sure it's barrier free for special needs children as well. That's great. And also some stuff for adults, because while the kids are on the swings, often mum or dad likes to have a swing as well. So we shouldn't forget the older people who still like to enjoy the playground.
I think that means we don't grow up, doesn't it, Stephanie? Caroline?
Peter Pan.
I love a swing.
It might be an exercise area. That might be our new exercise little area, similar to Ngaruahia. They have something like that.
That's right. Yeah, those sort of, so as you're walking around it, there's some little exercise things to do, because it is about ensuring people stay active at all ages. So the Harrisville bridge replacement, do we have anything? No, everybody's investigators at the planning investigation stage. Light body reserve, resurfacing at planning phase, and the Turko Memorial Hall flooring recoating.
That's been done.
That's been done. So, so that's good. That's all done. So the next one we've got is a discretionary fund report. So we've got some recommendations here that the Onewhero-Tuakau Community Board receives the discretionary fund report, notes that the balance will be resolved that the balance of the Onewhero-Tuakau Community Board discretionary fund as at the 30th of June be split proportionally across the 2 community boards, new community boards, and that the Turko Community Board and the Rural Port Waikato Community Board based on rating units. And that the Waikato District Council have resolved to reapportion the discretionary funds for the 2022-23 financial year based on the new representation arrangements. So, so that would be redistributing the balance. Do we know what the rating units are for each of the new community boards? Carolyn or Stephanie, have you been part of these discussions? Do you know how it works out roughly?
That's probably more of a question for democracy, to be fair.
No, that's all right, because we had a talk about this at the last meeting, didn't we? So that seems the fairest way. So we have got the report as well with our expenditure and commitments on. We've got a remaining balance of 54,000, including the commitments. So that will be apportioned. I would just have a quick look. Is there any? I think they're a lot more tidier than they were. I did since the last meeting have an email with an email discussion with Bob from the Turko Lions in terms of the Christmas parade. So he's provided. Sue followed up with them as well. I'm just trying to see if there's a commitment. I think he was going to wait and bring it to the. Yep, there is a commitment that's gone in, so that's good. That's for no. That's oh no, that's 2021. So that may be a rollover from last year that we've just got that one in there. But it was making sure that they had a commitment just because of the timing in terms of the new board. And by the time they have their first meeting, sort of reassuring him that they would have funding available. Carolyn and then Vern.
Probably just a question for democracy, and I'm throwing Grace under the bus here, but in respect of the balance of the 54,000, so as of the 30th of June, we're apportioning it. So there's if we, for argument's sake, at the next community board meeting had a application for discretionary funds, what do we do?
We can still allocate it, but it would, we can still allocate it, but it would be a portion. So, yeah, as we talked at the last meeting, so it would be apportioned. Okay. And then if we got, say, we got an application from Port Waikato, that funding would be taken out of the Port Waikato, the south of the river section. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Vern?
Yes, so Caroline, we talked some time ago about you wanting me to provide a number of things about where we've been working, A, with the murals, B, with the security. So we will have those full quotes in for the next meeting in terms of moving forward. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get back together with the police in regards to the quote for the moving the cameras around for the number plate recognition. So we completely upgrade the whole system so it goes through to the Manukau area office on the phones. So we know it's at the moment from Cornerstone Security about 14K to do the whole job, but I'll have a written quote that's been updated for that next meeting. It's basically it's the phase 3 of the program that we instigated some 7-8 years ago.
No, that's fine, Vernon. There's probably no rush on, like, you know, just get those ready.
Well, there is at the moment, actually, because of the number of the ram raids, which leads me to another very important question, which I don't believe that anyone has addressed anywhere, and I'm not sure the councillors can answer this. The placement of bollards on the council footpaths in front of some of these establishments, as we are now beginning to see here in Tuakau. That's
probably not a question for the discretionary funding section. But certainly what we can do, I can ask Grace to note it, and then perhaps Sue can provide an update at the next meeting. So are we happy? We've got, doesn't look like there's any further discussion on the actual financial report. So are we happy to move the recommendations? I'm happy to move them. Do I have a seconder for all three? So it's Candy. So that's, is it all those in favour?
Aye.
Yeah, that's great. Those against, good, that's carried. Very good. So the next one on page 25 is the fourth quarter service report. So we've got the Onewhero report and the Turko report. Do I have any questions on in either of those reports? I'll just see if there's any hands up. No, it's all very self-explanatory. Staff are doing a good job, which is great. No updates on there. That's great. So we'll move. So thank you for that report. Right, I'll just go around the table in terms of the councillors' reports. Carolyn, do you have anything to update us on?
Yep, just a couple of items from me. Firstly, policies, bylaws out for current consultation. We've got the Heritage Strategy Community Board and anybody else that may have some suggestions regarding that proposal. The cemeteries bylaw is up for review, and it's almost going out for like a pre-consultation just feedback before it goes out for a draft. And two questions that essentially we're wanting to know is what the public feedback is on dogs in cemeteries, when it largely ties into that discussion we had around the dog control bylaw, and also in respect of natural burials. So there's two questions in that document that we're asking for feedback from our community on. You may have seen, I don't know, those that stay up to date with the newsletters and Facebook, you've seen recently on council website about the Better Off funding in regard to the Three Waters proposal from the government. So council have established a panel that will obviously consider any applications from the communities for that funding. That panel comprises of 50% iwi, 50% of our staff, council, and that is basically open now. Say, what are your community aspirations? What do you think? Obviously, there's criteria that DIA have set that you need to actually fulfill before you can put your request in for that funding. But I'm sharing it far and wide. Basically, we have our blueprints, which do set a little bit of an agenda for some communities. But anything over and above that, obviously, is open for slather if it fits within the criteria. Finally, from me, and I say this really from sort of the western side patch, that the big rain of late, we've gone from a drought and then we've gone to a significant amount of rain, and that's created some really hot spots for some of our roads. Now, whilst the southern end of the unsealed network, the Tuakau network, is a significant part in our district and doesn't fall within your community board catchment, we've got a lot of slips. We've got, and as have on the northern side as well. So we recognise that you know there's a lot of work to be done in that infrastructure with even, you know, some stock transporters are unable to get down some roads around Tuakau at the moment because of significant slips after the rain. So I just wonder from a community point of view, and whether it's sort of a little bit late in the triennium, I don't know, but I would like to see going forward that the roading network actually be raised as a red flag in our work plan. Obviously, it is. It keeps us connected. You know, when you tie that back into council's vision about living, thriving, connected communities, some of our communities can't remain connected at the moment because of our poor roading infrastructure. So I just wonder, like, whether we or give a recommendation to the community boards going forward that some of the roading issues actually be highlighted. So all I'm saying is yeah, that the western side are grappling with a lot of road closures.
We could put it on our works report, Carolyn, and then perhaps if you want to,
yeah,
or any of us identify any particular roads, particularly those where there's slips, that we just get an update at the next meeting. Even perhaps we could invite the manager from the roading team to talk about the progress on some of those for our area, because it's useful to know, because not all of us are down every single road to know where the problem areas are. So I think we can put that, Grace, that we perhaps invite the roading manager to the next meeting to give an update on the remedial work taken following all the heavy rain and stuff, because we're only halfway through the winter at the moment, so we've still got a lot of the winter to go.
That's significant. That would be a great idea, Caroline, and it's really significant for a large portion of our residents.
It is, it's massive. Stephanie, any updates from yourself?
I think Caroline's covered most of them, but along with the slips is all the flooding as well. So there are roads closed, and I've been finding that I've been going along and all of a sudden there's water and carp leaping around on the road. So I've been calling those in because there's actually no signs to tell you that there's flooding and detours in place. I think that's something that also needs to be highlighted back, and to, for council to feed back to the community board these issues that are out there.
Can I just add to that? That's a great idea, Stephanie, and I wonder if it actually could be shared on our OTCB Facebook page, the link to the service request, because any matter of priority, people need to be able to call that in. If I flick it through to you, Candy, that link, could it go on the OTCB? Yeah, great.
Because now that we've had the heavy rain, and then given the drought of summer, we could potentially have the whole issue with trees falling down as well as we get through winter too. So this, because everything becomes very unstable, and the slips, that you've already talked about. So I think it is useful if the service request report are brought to the community's attention, just reminding them how to do that. No, that's great. I'll just go around everybody to see if you've got any updates. Bronwyn, do you have any updates?
Just one. I've been rung up about a meeting tomorrow to do with the police, and there's a meeting, but she didn't know what time it was or where it was, and that was Odessa, and it's to do with what Vern was talking about before. I don't know whether he knows.
Meeting tomorrow night. Bronwyn's saying meeting tomorrow night. Do you know where it is, Bronwyn?
No, I just said tomorrow. I don't know the time.
Yeah, Bronwyn doesn't know the time or the venue. She knows. Vern, do you know where it is?
It's been, the meeting has been changed from tomorrow night. There is another date, as the police were not able to be present.
Okay, so it's been changed from tomorrow night to another date.
I will advise. Yeah.
Great, lovely. So Vern will advise on that one. Anything else, Bronwyn?
No, I'm just getting this bloody COVID under control. I'm just coughing still a lot.
Oh no.
I had a real bad dose of it. My son was like, my granddaughter's just got over it as well. She started the whole ball rolling, and I got the worst of the three of us. Oh,
well, you look after yourself and take it easy, and don't rush back. Take plenty of rest. And
just can't get rid of this darn cough. It's just hanging on.
Yeah. No, you be careful. Candy, do you have any updates for us? We've covered everything for you. Vern, any updates?
I do. I have a sensitive subject I'd like to bring up, and I think we should do it off camera from the public. I don't know how we do that.
You're on mute, Caroline.
Yeah, what we can do, Vern, is we can formally end the meeting at the end, and then Grace can switch off the recording, and then we can have that discussion. That's no problem. So I'll just go to Jonathan next.
No, we don't have a lot. I mean, the Reserve Committee actually postponed their meeting due to a few people being sick and unavailable. OSPA have got their one coming up this week. OSPA's actually proceeding with a few grant applications. We actually did one up yesterday for they're looking at doing an addition to the front of the building. So that's underway. And also Jason's also, I think, forwarded some information about some other potential small scale grants that the team can use. So they're doing that. And I think, I know Rosemary's organised a meeting for about the concerns about safety and so forth with the roads and these madmen are running around with cars and that for, I think it's the 2nd of August. I think it's off the top of my head on the booking set on OSPA I was looking at. So that's up and coming as well. So that's kind of where we're at. So we'll probably have some more. I know OSPA's got their meeting next week and the Reserve Committee should be meeting not too long after that as well. So that's about it. Cool.
No, that's great. Thank you. That does remind me, Jonathan, when you talked about the mad car drivers, certainly we've had certainly one incident with huge number of cars gathering on a Saturday night, I think it was, to do wheelies and everything else in our area. So I think a large group were moved from Horotia and are now looking for new places to play. So
yeah, they seem to go from one to the next. As soon as you catch up to them, they move on to the next, and it's just it's a never-ending cycle of going around. But yeah, I look, and I guess it's about trying to work out how to deal with it over a long term as opposed to a short-term fix. It's fine to move them on, but that doesn't mean it's not going to happen somewhere else, and that's the problem.
Carolyn's got a hand up. She might be out. Carolyn.
Yeah, I just in respect of that, I mean, I'm currently down at Palmerston North for the LGNZ conference, and that is actually one of the remits is actually calling on the government to actually provide more of a national response to actually deal with this antisocial behaviour of boy racing. So let's see, we need to give the police and communities more tools in their toolbox to deal with it, basically.
Yeah,
and actually furthermore, probably when it comes to our public places bylaw review, I've been an advocate to actually maybe look at what we can do to, and I think you might recall some meetings ago when I spoke to Senior Sergeant Noel Foster about whether we can actually look at prohibiting any sort of gathering or something, obviously not going to impinge on civil rights, but something that actually is a bit of a balance. So it has been addressed on different levels.
Yeah, we had about 40 down our road one night. So I won't name our road because this is recorded. I don't want to encourage any repeat occurrences. So yeah, which is a lot for a small rural road. So Jonathan, do you have anything else you wanted to add, or?
No, that's cool.
No, that's great.
Yeah,
so I think I've done everybody. So mine is Grace. Did you have anything to update from Sue? No, okay, that's great. So I was away after the first couple of weeks after the meeting. I went overseas, which was an interesting experience after traveling in the COVID environment. But since I've been back, I've talked to followed up like with Bob regarding the Christmas parade. We had the workshop regarding the community board charter, and Sean and Candy attended that. So we went through the community board charter in some detail and identified some of the key points, which I just need to type up and then I'll circulate out to the rest of you. I've also had a couple of emails from, I think, a couple of other community board chairs who are looking at that as well. And I think they picked up some similar themes to us. It's not so much what's missing from it, it's the stuff that's in it that the council isn't actually currently doing at the moment. So it's a similar theme there. Yeah, and I've been starting to get all those consultation documents which are circulated. I didn't feedback on the waste and trade one because I circulated around the board members, and I think I raised it at the last meeting, and we didn't seem to be any key issues for the board on that one. So I didn't feedback on that one. I'm just trying to think, I think that's it. So there's been a bit to keep us busy. And there's certainly now following tonight from Pam, there's a bit to feedback on. So there's the regional transport plan, which I will look at. And if anybody else wants to have a look at that as well, I'd really appreciate that. And then we can get some feedback from the board. And also the freshwater policy, that may be of more interest to some of us. So again, have a look at that. And we can get, because we've got fairly tight timeframes on those. And then we've got the community board charter, because I think from our previous meeting, there was feedback to the council for consideration for their discussions by August. I think we needed to get that. So there's 3 things I'll be flicking out to everybody on. So if anybody wants to assist with any of those, that would be great to hear from you. That would be good. So I think, yeah, that's all for now. I don't think there's anything else. Our next meeting is going to be our final meeting, which will be in September. So I'm just wondering if everybody wants that face-to-face with masks on, just because it's our last meeting, and we can.
30th of August.
No, it's moved to the 6th of September, Bronwyn, because Sue was going to be away for the August date, and Sue wanted to be part of that final evening as well. So if we do a 6 o'clock start, do we want to bring a plate? Let's bring a small plate each. So for something, there's a little bit of kai as well to go with the evening. Yep, that's great. Yeah, perfect. So we'll do that. Bring a small plate of something to share, and then perhaps a couple of people can bring some nice drinkies instead as well. So we've soft drinks. This is a formal meeting.
No home brew allowed.
No, well. So yeah, so we'll do that. We'll make it nice for our last meeting. And yeah, so is there anybody got any other final points? Candy, would you like to close with a closing karakia?
Kia ora, Caroline. Tēnei te mea kia kai te katoa e tēnei wā, me koe hoki, Caroline, and our councillors and our democracy team, me korua, Jonathan, Vern, and Bronwyn. Ka piki te ora, Bronwyn. Hope you get better very soon, and everybody else keep safe out there. Nō reira, he karakia whakamitinga a kia tātou katoa, te ata whai o tō tātou arika i ukaraiti, me te aroha o te atua, me te whiwhinga taitanga ki te warua tapu, ake, amene.
Amene.